Cherringham, Episode 13, A Lesson in Murder. Written by Matthew Costello and Neil Richards. Narrated by Neil Dudgeon.
Chapter 1. Sink or Swim. Sophie White raced up the back stairs of Florence House, her footsteps on the worn stone echoing in the cold space as she climbed the 3 floors. Damn, double damn, I'm going to be late, she thought. Prep's never supposed to overrun on a Saturday, this is so unfair. At the top of the stairs, she pulled open the heavy fire door that led to the 6th form dorms, ran past the crowded common room and the kitchen where she glimpsed the usual weekend breakfast crowd. Oh, cheese on toast, if only I could join in. But even if she had time, she wasn't sure she'd be welcome. Freya and her crowd would be in there. And since the new term started, they'd been blanking her. She reached the end of the corridor, pushed hard on the door to her own room, and in one move flung her laptop bag onto her bed. "Walk, don't run," came a voice from the other bed. Sophie looked over. Her roommate Hannah was lying back against the pillows watching something on her iPad, her hand hovering over the shared biscuit tin. "Walking's for Year 7s, said Sophie, digging into her wardrobe, clothes flying. "Can I borrow your tracksuit? Mine's covered in mud." "Gross," said Hannah with a shrug, munching on a biscuit. Sophie didn't need a yes. After 6 years of school together, it was unspoken. "What's yours is mine, mine yours. Live fast, die together. Friends till the end. No lies, no secrets." Each time they moved up a year at Cherringham Hall School for Girls, she and Hannah had bound themselves tighter to each other with a new motto. And now they were in their last year, full-on 6th formers, just 3 terms to go before... Sophie stopped herself thinking about it, about leaving. It made a pit in her stomach. Way too scary. "So what's the rush? Seeing someone?" said Hannah. "Secret admirer?" "As if," said Sophie. "I'm running the Minnows Club for Miss Braithwaite." "Tough," said Hannah. "Duty calls?" "Exactly." "Hey, did you know you're late?" Very funny. She grabbed her swimming costume, Hannah's tracksuit, and a pair of trainers, then reached over and pulled out a handful of biscuits from the tin. 70 calories each, said Hannah. "Doesn't count," said Sophie, heading for the door. "It's breakfast." "That make a difference?" "Duh, yes. Latest research. Gotta love science." Sophie raced out. "Laters," she said over her shoulder. "Still on for Oxford this afternoon," she heard Hannah say as she turned into the corridor. "Can't wait," she shouted back. Then she was off, heading for the stairs again. She checked her watch. 3 minutes. She might just make it. Being late, for anything, was a cardinal sin at Cherringham Hall. Sophie knew the ethos back to front and upside down. It was drilled into all the girls from their first term. Cherringham girls will be bright, independent, free-thinking, creative, confident, resourceful, tolerant, and above all, reliable. And the teachers made it clear that while most of those qualities might take a while to develop, the bit about reliable, being on time, was one that had to be acquired immediately. She wheeled off the main school corridor and took a shortcut through the dining hall. As she slalomed past the formal tables, she glanced up at the portraits of Cherringham alumni on the walls. Explorers, poets, politicians, novelists, Nobel Prize-winning scientists, businesswomen, international sportswomen. Sophie and Hannah used to joke that the reason they'd all succeeded was that they were never late. And generally, now that she was a laid-back 6th former, Sophie wasn't that bothered about being a few minutes late, but today was different. Just a few days ago, on the very first day of term, Miss Braithwaite had called Sophie into her study and told her that she, Sophie White, was to be this year's house guardian. Short of school captain, house guardian was the most responsible position in the whole school. Now Sophie was terrified of letting Miss Braithwaite down. Miss Braithwaite was the most perfect teacher in the whole school. Everybody loved her, and she in turn knew everyone in the house, knew all their problems, all their fears and struggles. If Miss Braithwaite liked you, if she valued you, there was nothing you couldn't do. House guardians chosen by Miss Braithwaite were out there now in the world doing brilliant things. Sometimes you saw them on the news being interviewed. Sometimes they were even doing the interviews, dressed in those big jackets and helmets they wear in war zones. Through the big main front door now, Sophie hit the gravel at the side of the hall at speed. Out here, autumn leaves billowed in the cold wind. She knew there'd be no teachers around to tell her off for running. Only Tahir, the caretaker's son, trimming the hedges. She saw him look up and watch her as she ran past, then turn back to his work. Being late would be unforgivable. The Minnows, the Year 7 swimming club, was Miss Braithwaite's pride and joy. Being asked to run it was not just a responsibility, it was a privilege. Ahead she could see the glass and steel of the brand-new sports hall, the Prince Said building. The plush lobby area where the girls were supposed to wait looked empty. Oh no, they've already gone through, she thought, pulling open the door and feeling a blast of warmth. The entrance to the pool was down a flight of stairs at the far end of a glass corridor which gave onto the gym. She jogged along the corridor. Through the glass she could see plenty of familiar faces from all years pounding treadmills, rowing, spinning. Some smiled and waved. She took the stairs to the pool 2 at a time. The air was even warmer here. She could smell the chlorine. And now she could hear the loud chatter of the Year 7 girls as she headed towards the changing rooms. Was Miss Braithwaite here already? She pushed open the double doors and the noise immediately stopped. She looked around. 20 or so girls in their black regulation swimming costumes, frozen in mid-sentence, stared back at her, like statues. "Good morning, girls," she said. "Good morning, miss," they all responded. "Is Miss Braithwaite here?" There was a pause. Sophie waited to see who would drum up the courage to reply. Did they even know she wasn't even a teacher? Just a sixth former? "No, miss, we don't think so," came a voice from the crowd. Sophie breathed a sigh of relief. Phew, she'd got away with it. "Line up now, girls, and we'll go through to the pool," she said, echoing the words she herself could remember from all those years ago when she'd been a minnow too. "Don't forget to pick up a towel from the basket on the way, please, and no talking until we're all lined up. Lined up, remember, at the side of the pool." Taking a towel herself, Sophie led the girls through into the pool area. While the group followed her instructions, she went through the routines she'd observed so often. She walked around the pool, checking the life-saving equipment was all in place, the panic buttons lit, the floats in order, the water pumps functioning. She took one last look around. Although the pool was underground, the lighting was bright and warm, the water was flat and calm, the room temperature was perfect. When Miss Braithwaite arrived, the class would look drilled and perfect. Despite the rush, this morning was going to be fine. With 10 minutes to go before the end of the lesson, Sophie finally relaxed. The morning hadn't been at all what she expected. Just moments after she'd lined up the girls by the pool, a message had come from the staff room saying that Miss Braithwaite was indisposed, and could Sophie please take the session on her own? So that's what she'd done. That's what a Cherringham Hall girl was supposed to do, she knew, pick up the pieces and adapt. How many times had she heard that over the last few years? And in the end, she'd enjoyed it. She'd got to know the new girls, and she hoped they trusted her. She'd worked on technique, on confidence, on breathing. She'd pushed them, but not too hard. She'd watched them race and made a mental note of the girls who might have potential. That's exactly what Miss Braithwaite would do, she thought. And now, while she sat high up on the lifeguard ladder, she was letting them have fun, go a bit crazy with the inflatables. She scanned the pool, checking all the girls were safe among the brightly coloured floats and shapes. She watched them splashing and laughing. Sophie glanced at her watch. She'd given them just another 5 minutes. If everyone got changed without too much fuss, she could be out of here and on the 1 p.m. train to Oxford with Hannah. Shopping. Fantastic. Then, so fast, all the lights went out. The whole pool area turned dark, blacker than Sophie had ever known. Not just a dull, shadowy grey with shapes faintly visible, but a total blackness, as if a blindfold had been pressed against her face. Sophie swayed in her chair and nearly fell, then thought, oh my God, the girls. The laughing and splashing in the pool had turned into cries and shouts. She could hear anxious voices from every corner of the water. What's happened? I'm scared. I can't swim. Miss, I'm going to drown. Sophie gripped the sides of the lifeguard chair. Her thoughts were racing, but from somewhere deep within, a calmer spirit seemed to take over. Listen, girls, she called out. The lights have failed. That's all. Nothing to be scared of. Now, everyone, stay calm. We're all safe. Nobody's going to drown, I promise. She could sense the children in the water below listening to her. So listen carefully. I want you to do just what I say, okay? There was no answer. Louder now. Okay? Then a series of meek voices. Yes, miss. Yes, miss. First, I want you all treading water. Got that? Nice and gently. Don't think about the dark. Don't worry. Everyone treading? More meek replies from all corners of the black pool. Now, very slowly, I want you all to swim to the side of the pool. Follow my voice. I'll keep talking. She heard the sounds of splashes, arms slicing the water, legs kicking. When you get to the side, grab hold. If you're already at the side, just call out, please, so that others can swim to you, okay? She heard some voices now just below her. Over here. This way. Come on, almost there. She thought, this is going to be all right. Slowly, Sophie climbed down from the lifeguard's chair until she was standing, she assumed, by the side of the pool. Her heart was racing. She breathed deeply and made herself calm down. At the far end of the pool she knew was the panic button, but already her sense of direction was falling apart. It should be lit, she thought. Why isn't it lit? Somehow she had to walk round the pool, avoiding the floats and rings, and hit that button to get help. How are we doing, girls? Everyone at the side of the pool? How come I sound so calm, she thought. A chorus of voices saying, Here, I'm here too. Not one saying that word, which could have been so scary in this darkness. The pool turned into a black sea. The word, help. They were all working together. Well done, girls. Now, listen, don't try to climb out. It's too dark. I'm going to get help. Everybody understand? More agreement from the sea of voices just below her, the entire class invisible. Now Sophie put her arms out in front of her and started to walk, then stopped. This wasn't going to work. She could be anywhere. She might just stumble and fall into the pool. So she got down on her hands and knees and crawled on the tiles, her hands flat on the wet tiles, reaching ahead into the darkness, feeling her way forward, inches at a time, until, yes, she could feel the shallow drain that ran round the edge of the pool. All she had to do now was follow it until she felt the ladder in the corner, then turn and crawl along the width until she was level with where she knew she'd find the button on the wall. Everybody okay? She called softly as she crawled. Yes, miss, came voices from around the pool. Someone was giggling. That's good, she thought. This is quite an adventure, isn't it? She said. More laughter. At last her hands touched metal, the steps. Now she just had to slip around them and crawl down the width of the pool, and then, with a crackling buzz and a sudden flash, the lights came back on. For a second, Sophie's eyes were blinded. She forced them open and looked around. The girls were huddled close, lining one side of the pool. She counted them quickly. All there. Oh, thank God, she thought. Everyone okay? She called. Yes, miss, they shouted. Someone cheered, and then all of them joined in, whooping and crying out in relief. She watched as they launched themselves from the side, splashing and shouting so quickly back to play, fear vanishing. Sophie stood up. Her eyes were wet. She wanted to cry. She took a deep breath and wiped her tracksuit down. It was soaking wet from her crawl. Time to get the girls out, she thought. They were getting a bit overexcited. The shrieking and laughter echoed louder and louder. She looked down to the far end of the pool. One group of girls seemed to be fighting. She could see them scrambling and pushing each other. She saw someone pushed under the water. Then she realised they weren't playing.